I've only gotten two traffic tickets in my life. It is pretty good for the age that I am and the fact that I've been driving since I was 16. And I didn't get one of those when I was a teenager. My first one was when I was probably about 24, and my last one was probably about 5 years ago. 5 years ago, it was Christmas, and I was leaving Costco. For those of you that know what Costco is, it's a big warehouse place to shop. And around Christmas, it's crazy busy. And the lines getting out of Costco are pretty long. And of course, around Christmas time, you're busy, right? Lots of stuff to do, always in a hurry. So when I got up to turn out onto the main street, I was going to turn left at a light, and there was a really long line of cars that was in the lane that was going straight. In order to get to the left turn lane without waiting for all the cars in the long line going straight on the road, I would have to pull out of the on the side of the yellow lines on my side and pull kind of cross over those yellow lines and pull up into the turn lane. Now, that's illegal. You can't cross solid yellow lines when it means you're crossing over into the other direction of traffic's lanes, which technically that was. Now, it wasn't very far. It was just a little short distance. It got me to, because the left-hand turn arrow was going to turn green before the green light on the going straight. So it got me one light. Okay, I saved waiting for one light, which isn't a lot of time. And even if it were 5 minutes, it would have been worth it. However, even though I had just told my newly driving daughter not to do that, which actually now I know that it was more than 5 years ago by that timing, even though I had just told her not to do that, and even though the thought went through my mind, better wait, I impulsively jerked my car out of my lane and did it and went up to the left turn lane. And of course, as I made that turn, a motorcycle cop pulled right out, pulled me over. Of course, I wasn't happy to have been pulled over, but I knew what it was for as soon as he put his lights on. So I rolled down my window, did I say I shouldn't have done that or I was wrong? No. I started making excuses. I started rationalizing, like, the lines weren't clear. That's kind of a lie, actually. I didn't think about it. The line was long. Let's see, what were some of the other things I said? I said something like, oh, I normally am a really good driver and I don't ever break the law. And his response to me was a stoic, straight face that said, well, I don't think anybody is ever that good of a driver. So, in other words, he was not buying into it. Well, I wasn't happy when I saw the ticket in the mail, and that meant I was going to have to pay hundreds of dollars in fines. And sometimes your insurance goes up depending on, I think I ended up taking traffic school, but it was still annoying. I think I remember back when I got the first ticket in my 20s that it was in Arizona and it was a don't turn right on red sign, which normally it was okay, but on this one there was a sign and we had just moved out to a house in that area of town. I honestly wasn't used to those. It it does catch us off guard when always you can turn right on red, except if there's a sign that says don't turn right on red. So of course, when I got pulled over with my little ones in the car, I said, oh, I didn't see the sign, thinking that he was going to go, oh, okay, sorry, you didn't see the sign. No, it is our responsibility to see the signs when we are driving. That's why they're there. They make a decision to put them there on lights where turning right on the red could be dangerous, right? Didn't get me out of the tickets either time. Now, you may have a good track record of getting out of tickets. Obviously, mine is a zero, 2 for 2, not getting out of tickets. But what I thought about after I had done this at the time, and I did write a devotion on it, was how often I do that in my relationships. How often do I get caught or called out for doing something wrong? And instead of owning it, instead of admitting it, instead of just saying, you're right, I was wrong, I shouldn't have done that, we, I'll say I won't say we, I'll assume you don't do this. I make excuses. I start explaining. I was tired, I was busy, I was stressed, it was a long day, I didn't think about it, whatever it is. Or, well, you did it first. That's actually blame shifting. You did it first. You did it to me. I responded to your tone. You were rude when you first came in. You ignored me. You. Telling the other person, no, I didn't do anything wrong because it's your fault and I did it because of you. Well, that again we can call it a lot of different things. It's defensiveness, it's blame shifting, it's rationalizing, it's justifying, and it's really common. And it is not healthy to not own what we do wrong, not be able to look at ourselves, see the truth. And when somebody points something out to us that was often something that was hurtful to them or damaging to the relationship, or something that we need to be accountable for in order for that person to recognize that we get it, that we did something wrong, to know that so they can feel more comfortable that, hey, if I recognize I did that wrongly, then I'm not likely to repeat it in the future. But if I deny that I did it wrong, I am more likely to do that in the future. And then the person can't trust as much. So all of this is for the purpose of being accountable yourself, being responsible and admitting when you're wrong. You can grow from that. I can grow from that. I mean, I eventually had to admit to myself that I made the wrong turn and deserved the ticket. Obviously, I had to pay the fine or do the traffic school. And yet in our relationships, often we walk away without taking responsibility and just trying to make excuses for it. Apologies that are really clean apologies are just, I was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry. I won't do that again, or I'll work on not doing that again. Being accountable, being honest, admitting that you're wrong, not rationalizing, not excusing. Now, there are times that providing an explanation, not an excuse, but an explanation can help heal a relationship, to maybe giving somebody understanding of who I am and why I acted like I did, maybe giving myself better understanding to figure out, why did I do that? Like, I got better understanding of myself when I reflected on that, making my rationalizations and excuses to the police officer. That was kind of like, oh, light bulb. I think I don't just do that when I get caught doing something wrong with traffic. And by the way, I am not that perfect of a driver. I speed. I do stop completely at stoplights and at red light or stop signs. We have something in California called the California stop sign roll, where you kind of lightly put on your brakes and roll through the stop sign. I don't do that. So I'm very careful with that. Why? Because I don't want a ticket. I do stop completely, turning right on red lights, and but I speed. I am not a perfect driver. So that wasn't even me being genuine to the police officer. So when you need to apologize, be careful. Think about it. How can I own this? How can I cleanly admit that I was wrong? Now, do you admit you're wrong when you weren't wrong? No. You don't let somebody intimidate you or badger you. You don't have to say that you were wrong when somebody's accusing you of something if you were not. But you do need to check yourself. You do need to check yourself with an open mind, without making defensive excuses and rationalizations. And I think you will notice that it will be cleaner. Things will be cleaner in your relationship when you start making excuses. And I'm sure you hate it when people do that to you. I do. I hate it. I just want somebody to go, I was wrong. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. And that's it. So think about that and pay attention to how you respond when somebody tells you you've done something wrong. Now, I'm not talking about the abusive person who is turning everything against you. You don't have to accept that, and that's different. But I'm talking about in a normal situation where there are things that you do that you get called on or that you become aware of and you need to own them. That's when this applies. You don't ever want to apologize to somebody when it's unsafe to do so or put you into jeopardy. People will use it against you and twist it and manipulate. So that's a different situation. So some of those verses are 1 Peter 2:20 says, "But how is it to your credit if you receive a beating for doing wrong and endure it? But if you suffer for doing good and you endure it, this is commendable before God." So if you are called out on something you did, you don't get any brownie points for admitting that you were wrong or for suffering that comes from that or discomfort. That's as a result of what you did wrong. Okay. You've got to take responsibility for that. King David said in Psalm 32:5, "Then I acknowledged my sin to you and did not cover up my iniquity. I said, I will confess my transgressions to the Lord, and you forgave the guilt of my sin." And he talks in that psalm about how his bones were wasting away when he refused to admit he was wrong, and how much like discomfort and pain he was in, and how that was lifted when he admitted that he was wrong. And that can be with our relationship with God. And we got to admit to ourselves, too, a lot of times that we do things wrong and to the other person. And Proverbs 15:4 says, "A fool spurns his father's discipline, but whoever heeds correction shows prudence." So a wise person is open to hearing the truth, and a humble person apologizes for wrongdoing. A responsible person makes amends for harm that was done, and a mature person does not expect to get credit for suffering for doing wrong. Instead, a mature person recognizes that suffering for wrongdoing should be borne willingly because it is deserved, and not to be a martyr, but because when you did something wrong, you're responsible and you're accountable. Hopefully that was helpful and gave you some food for thought, as it did for me when I got that the second ticket of my life, which thankfully was more than 5 years ago, and I've done well so far. Okay, God bless you. I should knock on wood, right? I just knocked on wood. All right, thank you for watching, and I hope you'll come back and watch more videos.